Listening. When you listen, what do you hear? What do you sense? Welcome, friends, to Intentional Life with me, Jamie Comer. Thank you for being here and thank you for being you. Now let's talk about listening for a moment. In 2018, I started taking, just at the beginning, in January 2018, I began a master's degree program in health and wellness coaching. I really wanted to learn how to help. Well, honestly, it was a calling for myself, how to coach myself and also coach people and to help them make the changes they seek, because I had been teaching yoga and spin and Pilates and a variety of kind of wellness related practices and I noticed, I could say, hey, go, do yoga 3 times a week, right? We know if you're told something, it's not so easy to do. Sometimes you need to work through it to figure out, well, how do I make that work for me? What's important to me about it? What actually motivates me about this? Or something else, what else can I do to motivate me? And so that journey of taking this program was very profound and healing, because you essentially, when you take a program like that, you're working on yourself first to be able to be in a place mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, to be present for people and their emotions and what they're working through, and there to help be present, fully present. So essentially putting your own assumptions, judgments, emotions, not just at the side, but to be able to actually be present and feel them while also being present with others. So this practice of being present really brought on this practice of listening. The practice is called active listening, where you're listening in the moment. So if you, for example, if you're speaking and talking maybe about for 3 minutes about, a challenge you're having at work, for me to actively listen, what that means is I'm listening to you and I'm not trying to think of the question to ask you in response. I'm listening for you for 3 minutes. And then at the end, the tail end, what you're saying, I allow myself to be present with you with what you're saying. So when you finish speaking at the 3 minutes, those last probably 30 seconds worth, brings up a question for me to ask. So I wait for the intuitive kind of arrival of a question to ask you based off of where you finished. Although I may be aware of some things you said along the way to reflect on and to acknowledge for you, or to bring up or ask about as well. But the act of listening is where you're very present with somebody. So what's been really fun is learning that in my program. I've been able to practice that with coaching, of course, one-on-one coaching, and also in group sessions. And also in life, though. And it also it was a big awareness for me of recognizing where I was not listening, where I was not actively listening to someone, and I was just in my own head. If you've ever had this feeling, for example, where you're in a circle and you're going around the circle to introduce yourselves, maybe it's like the start of a retreat or the start of a business gathering. I definitely have had that feeling for school even, where you're going around a circle and you're going to introduce yourself for the first time. And you're like, oh my gosh, okay, what am I going to say? Okay, my name's Jamie. I got that part. Okay. I'm from Fresno, California. Okay, I got that. And then what's my favorite color? I don't know. What's my favorite color? What am I going to say? Oof, and so how much are we listening to the others going around the circle? Because we're thinking in our own head about what we're actually going to say. Raising my hand to that one. Maybe you. And so this realization of, wait a minute, how often are we thinking about in our own head and not really listening to what the person is saying? Because we just want to get something in. We want to say something right away. We want to be heard. We want to feel, we want to feel heard, right? We want to feel acknowledged, or maybe we want to have something to say, or maybe we don't agree with them. So we want to chime in with our opinion. Or maybe we're so worried about what everyone's going to say about us and they're going to judge us for what we say. We have to figure out how to say something very clearly and perfectly and concisely so no one judges us and they like us. I'm raising my hand to all of this, okay? So I'm saying it from a compassionate space that it maybe you resonate to with the inner dialogue that we have, and that can get in the way of us really listening to a person in our presence, And also listening to what's present around us, to what's present around you right now. So I invite you to just pause and notice, first off, the inner dialogue going on in the head. Is there inner dialogue? Or is it pretty tuned in here? And then also notice, just listen around you. Listen to my voice, for example, and to other sounds you may hear. I notice I hear birds outside. I notice far off, maybe a lawnmower. When I'm listening, I notice I start to breathe more. Allow myself to be more present and breathe. I think I was even holding my breath for a moment when I was not listening. Notice your breath connected with your listening. Another area where I've been playing with listening is with my kids. I've noticed that it's easy for me to, when they're explaining something, to almost like put a wall up or like a window, close a window, be like, I don't hear them as well now because I have an assumption of what I think that they're saying or going to say, or they're taking longer than I want to be listening for, meaning their pace of speaking is a different pace than what I want to be present for. Maybe because I think I am busy and think I need to wash this dish and I'm not ready to listen and be present. Or, I have this other thing to do and I'm packing up, ready to go to the car. And how can I be present to listen to someone while doing that? Right. So there's these different reasons of, not feeling like one can be present and one can listen. And I've been contemplating that space, and I'm curious what comes to you for whether it's relationship with your kids, a partner. Go ahead and pick somebody in your life where you notice, am I listening? Do I make space to listen? I invite you to also consider what listening actually means to you. Hearing is the act of, hearing sounds come in through the ear. Maybe not the understanding space of it, though, or the acknowledging or the witnessing of something. So how would you describe listening? And I invite you to consider, and feel free to pause this as you need, if you need longer, if you want to journal this out, is what is important to you about listening? For example, listening to others. What's important to you about that? And what's important to you about being listened to? Having people listen to you when you're speaking or expressing yourself. I noticed that in the example, say with my kids, that there is, when I'm not listening to them, there is this dynamic. It's almost like a competitive or a comparison dynamic or a scarcity dynamic where it's like, oh my gosh, there's not enough time, so I'm not able to listen to you. Or there's not enough time. I need to say what I need to say to make sure you hear me. So sometimes there's this scarcity energy of not enough time to be able to hear each other. Now there's other aspects to it, I realize, because using the example, you're taking the kids to the car and you're heading out and you're going to the grocery store because you want to pick up some food and everybody's hungry. And so is it the time to hear, a 5-minute monologue, a story? Maybe not, right? So, I think listening also brings up the opportunity for where can we communicate? Where are we needing to communicate very, maybe compassionately or clearly about what we're doing or expectations or meaning about like how you're feeling in this moment. So I know that there's other layers to this. I'm not saying that listening. So listening to me doesn't mean you're just still and you're never talking or you're never sharing how you're feeling. For example, I'm speaking a podcast. I love listening and I'm actually talking to you right now. So there is this dynamic, this practice. It goes back and forth, right? So I'm curious for you, what would it feel like? What does it feel like to you? What does it feel like to you to be truly listened to? Notice what comes up. And where do you feel like in your life you really listen? Where do you feel like in your life you really listen? And where in your life do you feel like you'd like, or would you like to listen more? To be more present with either someone and this someone could be not a person. It could be an animal. It could be nature. It could be with yourself, listening to yourself. An example of that is, for me, the morning time is very sacred for me. It's a time for me to center my energy, to tune into what is my energy compared to anything else around me. Meaning, like, who am I? What are my thoughts? What's my intuition compared to everybody else chiming in their ideas? Or with whether it's my family or literally just anything I read or see on social media. So I feel way more grounded when I have a very particular morning ritual, and where I step away and I have some me time. And so for me, listening, where I listen really well, I think, is when I step away and I'm by myself. Where I could listen better, for example, is when I'm not by myself and I'm with others, and to listen, to pause before I respond to people asking me questions, and to really listen and tune into what my answer is versus maybe a reactive answer, and falling into some of my own patterns of, whether it's people pleasing or just automatically saying yes to something, if that's a default of mine, or reacting no, because sometimes that's a default of mine too, depending on who's asking me the question. So listening can also be for yourself. So let's ask that question of, what would it feel like to listen to yourself a little bit more? For example, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you feel like you listen to yourself? And I'm going to say more your intuition, not the inner dialogue saying, judging, if the inner dialogue is more like, worry based or concern based or fear based or judgment based. I'm talking about the intuition, the heart, listening. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you feel like you listen there? And what would you like that number to be at? Notice the first number to pop in. Okay. Now just go ahead and imagine yourself in that place of listening at that number you want to be at. What did that look like? Imagine yourself there. What comes up for you? What words, ideas, vision, like visuals? And what's possible for you in this place where this number that you'd like to be at? And this is just a number. It just represents, it helps you kind of create that visual for you. The number is not so important. It's more the kind of the energy behind it, or what comes up for you because you imagine what that number looks like for you. So we're not getting stuck on the number. What's possible for you when you're at that place of listening more? I know for me, my pace completely changes. When I listen to myself better and listen to others, it's because I'm more present, and then I'm not in this rushed energy. I have my own patterns of rush energy. So slowing down at what feels like slowing down and really finding what I think is actually more authentic of a pace for me. And it's very trusting. The pace is trusting, meaning like not rushing because I think I'm going to miss out on something. Or so it's a very mindful pace to me. I feel like I'm actually truly listening at that level. So we've covered many different angles of listening, of ways of practicing listening for you, personally for you. I hope these questions have offered some different insights. And always, that's what the campfire is for, a time for you to tune in to yourself, connect with yourself. And so if there's anything that you feel called to do in response to what you've learned about yourself, what is that? I wonder. What do you feel called to do, whether that's for yourself or for others or to practice? And what have you learned about yourself from this time? What have you gained? And is there anything that you feel called to let go of because of this, what you've gained from this episode, this time together? And now let's check on your energy compared to the beginning of this time together. What are a few words to describe where you're at now, how you're feeling now? For me, I'm feeling at peace is the word. I'd been seeking some peace, and I noticed lately I've been trying to seek my peace outside of me. Like everybody calm down, everybody relax outside here. Kids, stop playing so loudly. I need peace. Compared to, okay, well, where's my peace? What can I do for me, within me, to connect with my peace? I'll go outside where it's less loud, first off. Or have Matt take the kids out. That's also great. So I'm feeling more at peace. I think for me, talking about listening is a really joyful thing to explore. And this is just an exploration. This is not quite a master class, right? That we can go deeper into listening. We're just touching dipping our toes into the world of listening. If we want to dive more into that, then, you and I, we can do some coaching together. We can have a group session, a campfire together. We can have a course together. I can always set those up. But right now, we're just dipping our toes into the practice of listening for you and for me, continuing that. Okay. So thank you for being here, for gifting yourself this time, for connecting with your inner knowing. The campfire is called Campfire with a K because the K stands for inner knowing. And to me, at the essence of campfire is an intentional life. It's about living intentionally. And just like in episode 1, which speaks about the 3 different areas of your life, if you organize them into different things that you're experiencing, it's doing like action-based activities with intention. And well, sometimes I'll say, because hey, how when we're present, I think we're more intentional, but it's not always going to be present, right? At least for myself. And then the other area, so there's doing of an intentional life, then there's the feeling, your inner world, your feelings, your emotions, everything that you're feeling in response to life around you and reflecting on. And then there's also this act of being, this time of being when we allow ourselves to be really present in a moment, and also letting the act of doing what we're doing and our feelings come up, and whatever comes up from all of that experience, these new awarenesses, this pause, that's the time of being. And really, I feel like an intentional life and these campfire times is an opportunity for us just to be more, just to be present more with ourselves. And how perfectly aligned is that we're talking about listening, because listening is really the practice of being too, I think. Okay. If this episode calls to you, if it speaks to you, I invite you to share this with a friend or leave a review so more people can find this. Thank you for being you. I'm Jamie Comer, and this is Intentional Life. See you soon.